Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a mixing workflow tutorial start to finish, as you might have guessed from the title. There's more information about the song I'm using, the software and tools that I'm using as well, all in the description, so check that out, but let's waste no time and just get right into the video. I will be showing lots of mixing techniques in this video, but the main purpose is to give you a sort of workflow or overall idea of how to approach mixing a track with a lot of stems like this. It doesn't really matter which software you use or what plugins you have, all of this stuff works in any DAW with any softwares. The song I'm mixing today is called You by the Workday release. It's a really beautiful song, and the only thing I've done to prepare is dragged all the stems in and taken a quick listen whilst naming them, and also sent them to the mixer. But besides that, I haven't done any extra preparation for this, so you're going to see how I might approach this. And remember that this works with any genre. No matter what sort of song you're working with, you can still apply this sort of general roadmap to get it into a good sounding position. So I've heard these stems in solo, so I'm going to let you hear them as well. Let's just start with the instruments, and then I'll add some stuff in. So there's lots of nice atmospheres and pads like this. There's of course piano and guitar that you were hearing. And there's also this really nice vocal that sits on the top.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down.
But the song also does pick up a bit of momentum later on. There's drums and some bass. But all of this needs a good balance.
Allowed the current to decide where I should go.
It's a little bit all over the place. So the first thing I'm going to do is think about the big picture. Now, I've wasted so many hours, I truly mean hours, in mixes in the past where I focus in on just trying to get a good vocal tone to start off with, or just get the bass and drums working. This just leads me sort of chasing my tail. I get a good tone, then I add in more of the song and it doesn't fit anymore. So I have a bigger picture approach. It's called top-down mixing. It's not something I invented. It's a very common technique, but the way it works is to try and deal with the song as a whole before you dive into individual tracks. So what I've done on the mixer is you'll see these different colored groups. Now, usually I don't worry actually too much about coloring the project, but for the sake of the tutorial, it really helps you see what I'm looking at as well. So I've got all the vocals, for instance, in blue, and all of those individual tracks go to a vocal bus. Same with the atmospheres and pads here. Same with the instruments over here, like the guitar, the piano, the synths, they're all going to an instrument bus. If I go back to the start of the song, it means that I can select all of these channels with a control left click and drag. I can pull all the channels down, and then at any point in the song you shouldn't hear any volume at all, and this means that I'm going to introduce these groups of instruments and vocals together and get the overall volume right without having to dive into any single track. So I'm going to do this with my speakers and also my headphones. Let's take a listen. Let's pull those instruments in first.
It feels like sanity until my lungs remind me, but time is up, time is up.
And already I can hear that the background vocals were way too loud when they came in here, or far too loud.
But time is up.
So I'm just going to pull those down here on this channel.
But time is up, time is up.
So let's pull in those atmospheres now.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down.
Let's go to an area that has that bass and drums, and we'll pull those back in.
I wandered out again last night into a river. Allowed the current to decide where I should go. It felt like freedom until I knew I was drifting. All alone, all alone.
So there's a lot of things I can hear in individual tracks, which I really want to change right now, but I'm just trying to think about the overall bigger picture. So let's take another listen.
I wandered out again last night into a river. Allowed the current to decide where I should go.
While I've set the overall balance, there's still lots of small channels that I want to push up and down, so I'm going to go do that now. Some of them that I identified were that this keys pad here I feel is louder than the other atmospheres, so I'm just going to start by pulling this one down. And when I got to this section here, there was this beautiful rhythm guitar, which just sounded a little bit too loud if I play it with everything else.
Into a river, allowed the current to decide where I.
So that's a little bit better, but now I want to start adding some effects to blend things in. This is a sort of static mix, that's what a lot of people would call it. I know that I have to add some effects, mainly reverb, to these vocals to get them to sit with the rest of the instruments. So let's do that. If I go to my vocal bus here, I've got my main vocals and the background vocals, and I also have a vocal reverb and vocal delay send here. Now I have a specific tutorial showing how to set this up in parallel processing, but also a vocal mixing tutorial, and it's basically an exact copy of that, but I just send from the main vocal channel to the reverbs, and then I send those all back to the vocal channel. I'm going to add a little bit of this reverb and delay, and then I'll show you actually what's happening on these tracks.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down. It feels like sanity until my lungs remind me.
I know that the artist wants this song to sound very spacious, but I also know he doesn't like a ton of reverb and delay on his vocals, so I've got to really respect that as well. I'll solo these just so you can hear it, although I don't tend to solo much while mixing. So on the reverb channel, I just have a standard Fruity Reverb 2. You can see the settings here. All wet, no dry. And then I have this compressor here called the Molotok. And the reason I'm using this is that I can sidechain it to the main vocals. So while David is singing, this reverb is being ducked down and compressed, and then it very quickly releases in between his phrases and swells the reverb up. Let's take a listen to that.
Night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down.
It's just a little bit. It just cuts it down by 4 or 5 dB whilst he sings. I could do a lot more. And then the same thing is happening with the delay. So I have Fruity Delay 3.
Night into the ocean.
It's also going into a little bit of reverb as well. But again, the Molotok compressor is cutting it down.
Night into the ocean.
And this means that it doesn't really overtake the main vocals too much, but it still gives us a really spacious feel. So let's just solo this.
Night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down.
And the reason I don't like soloing is because you end up, again, chasing your tail. This sounds like far too much reverb and delay. I mean, on its own, you saw me pull that down. It's just far too much. It's overtaken the vocals.
Night into the ocean.
But if I play it with everything else...
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down.
I mean, it's still a little bit too much, probably because I should maybe cut a bit of the low end out of it, but it's not completely overwhelming. It just sounds a little bit spacious, so I will take them back a little bit. I may add more later. I tend to overdo it with reverb and delay, so I'm going to be a little bit cautious with that. Now, I'm hearing on the instruments that the guitar and the piano are both occupying the low mids quite a lot, and I don't want to use the word muddy because it's so overused, but there's a little bit of competition in between about 100 and 300 hertz between the guitar and the piano. Let's take a listen. And if I can be honest, I'd like the piano to fill most of that low-mid area. So I'm going to take the guitar, and this is just experimenting with stuff, you know, seeing what's going to work. I'm just going to grab any old EQ and just do a little bit of a cut there. And again, I'll play it with the piano. Maybe I'll boost a bit at the top. Let's hear that with everything else.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew.
I like that a lot more. If I turn it off,
I wandered out again last night.
it's just, there's a lot of boominess in that guitar.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean.
And the piano is fairly wide because it's actually made up of a few different stems here, which I want to quickly show you. When we recorded, we had a pair of stereo mics on top of the soundboard. We also had a room microphone and a microphone right above David's head, just as a bit of an experiment. And we sort of blended the three of those to create this tone here, which has a bit of stereo information, but it's not too wide. But I'm worried that this guitar is a little bit thin, even with that reverb. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of stereo imaging on it. Now, I just use the Ozone 9 imager, but they also have a free imager. I just haven't actually registered it yet, so I'm not going to use it. I'm going to take everything above, let's say, 200 hertz and just make it a little bit wider. There's no point listening to this on its own, so I'm going to take all the instruments again. I think that sounds much better. Let's listen to that with the vocals.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down. It feels like sanity until my lungs remind me but time is up, time is up.
Let's add some effects to the background vocals because they're quite dry at the minute. They just sound like this.
Time is up, time is up.
They definitely need some reverb. So I'm just going to start by adding a splash of reverb to them. Again, there's not a whole lot of point doing this in solo. So let's push it really far and then see what it sounds like.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black. You pull me back when I'm sinking down, down into the depths. You pull me back.
Let's pull their volume down a bit because they're overtaking the main vocals there.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black. You pull me back when I'm sinking down, down into the depths. You pull me back.
You know what, I might actually do a little bit more stereo imaging on those harmonies as well. Now, please don't just copy what I'm doing because I'm just experimenting at this point, and I tend to not actually do a whole lot of stereo imaging, but I'm quite liking it at the moment, so.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath. You pull me back.
I quite like that that moves the harmonies out of the way, but I might undo this later. Let's just see how the song pans out. I'm now going to add some more effects to the main vocal because besides those that reverb and delay, it doesn't have any extra EQ or compression on it, and there's probably a little bit I can do to make it fit in the mix a little bit better. So let's just load some plugins and take a listen.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down. It feels like sanity until my lungs remind me but time is up, time is up. You pull me back when I'm out of till my lungs remind me but time is up, time is up. You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black. You pull me back when I'm sinking down, down into the depths. You pull me back, and without you I know for sure I'd drown. But you pull me back, you pull me back.
So I'm going to pull the vocals down a little bit because I added a little bit too much gain with that compression. And I'm going to listen in my monitors now, just to make a change from the headphones.
Till my lungs remind me, but time is up, time is up. You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black. You pull me back when I'm sinking down, down into the depths. You pull me back, and without you I know for sure I'd drown. But you pull me back, you pull me back. I wandered out again last night into a river.
The bass and drums clearly need a lot of work, But I want to ask myself first, what are the drums trying to do in this song? Because there's a million directions I could take this in. I could make them really punchy, I could compress them and hide them under the track. What's the purpose here? And when I'm listening to the song, what is David, the artist, what is he actually singing? And at the start, there's all these sort of spacious vocals, all those pads and atmospheres, and a very sort of lonely and haunting sounding guitar and piano. And that just matches the song all alone as he's singing. I think in this song, the rhythmic guitar and the percussion is really there to provide foundation and rhythm, so that's the direction I'm going to go with this. Let's just take a listen to those drums on their own, because I think they need a lot more movement. I think we can do a lot with potentially reverbs or delays to sort of smooth them out and sort of tuck them in with the rest of the track. And I should say, these drums were all provided as one stem. I don't have a kick and a snare and a hi-hat. I've got to work with it all together. So let's listen to them together.
I wandered out again last night into a river, allowed the current to decide.
I think they're a little bit too dry, so what I'm going to do is try adding surprisingly some reverb, but I also do want to pull that snare up. I know I said a minute ago I don't want it to cut through the mix, but I feel it's a little bit dark. So what I'm going to do is add, I could add another sort of parametric EQ, but what I'm going to do is just pull open the mix rack, just use whatever you have. I sometimes like using these sorts of plugins where you can't really see, exactly what's going on with a slope. I find you just pull a plugin in, I put it around 2 or 4K and you just push up until it sounds right. You don't get put off by seeing a slope on an EQ. So let's see how that goes. You can really hear a lot more of that snare. I like that. That's sounding better already. But I'm also going to add some reverb. Now, I'm just using Fruity Reverb 2. It's just a built-in reverb. But again, use whatever you have. There's so many good free plugins out there. That's going to help tuck it under the track. And in there again, I'm also going to use the Kotelnikov. I think that the kick is just a bit too huge, and I'd like to reduce the kick, pull up the snare a little bit, and make sure that nothing is too punchy. Usually I'd actually be doing the opposite. I'd want the drums to be as dynamic as possible, but I don't want them to overtake the track. So let's do a little bit of compression. Let's make that really fast. Nice. If I play that with everything else.
I wandered out again last night into a river, allowed the current to decide where I should go. It felt like freedom until
The shakers were sounding a little bit loud, so I'm going to reduce that top end a little bit. I might use a normal EQ to do some of this, but overall, it's amazing how much adding that reverb has just brought so much sort of tone and texture to those drums. Overall, they're not any louder. The peak value is almost the same, but you can just hear them so much better.
I wandered out again last night into a river, allowed the current to decide where I should go.
So I'm also hearing that the rhythm guitar is, again, still a little bit too loud. It sounds amazing, this one here. It's just overtaking a bit, and I think it's also because it has a little bit too much low frequency information. Just something like that might help. Let's play everything together.
Allowed the current to decide where I should go. It felt like freedom until I knew I was drifting, all alone.
So all of a sudden, this distorted guitar pad just kicked in. And it sounds great, but it's a bit too loud, so I'm just going to pull that down.
It felt like freedom until I knew I was drifting, all alone. You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in...
So the vocals are getting sort of swallowed up a little bit in the chorus, and I'm not so happy with how that sounds. I feel there's a little bit too much low mid weight in this song, even though I do want it to sound warm. I felt that in the verses, the vocals felt loud enough.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean.
Sounds pretty good. Over here,
I wandered out again last night into...
maybe those drums are just a little bit too loud. Let's pull the bass and drums down.
I wandered out again last night into a river. Allowed the current to decide where I should go. It felt like freedom until I knew I was...
Okay, cool. And then into the chorus.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath.
So what I think we need to do is pull all the vocals up in the chorus. So what I'm going to do is go to that vocal bus here. I'm going to add a simple gain plugin. What you're looking for is some sort of gain or utility plugin in your DAW. This one's called Fruity Balance in FL. I'm going to create an automation clip for this. So where is it? Create automation clip. And then in the chorus, I'm just going to increase the level of the vocals just a little bit and see if that works.
You pull me back.
A little bit too much.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black. You pull me back.
That seemed to work great. Now into the verse, I'm going to take them down again.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath.
Or I should say the bridge, it's not the verse. And then into the final chorus, I'm just going to raise them just to give them a little bit of a lift. There we go.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black. You pull me back when I'm sinking down, down into the depths. You pull me back, and without you I know for sure I'd drown. But you pull me back, you pull me back.
I'm actually really liking where that's sitting. I mean, there's lots of things I want to do to fine-tune a few things, which we'll do in just a moment. But overall, you can see that even though I've had to take time to talk through what I'm doing, this process of splitting things into channels, getting the bigger picture sorted, it really speeds up this process. Whereas if you just start by tweaking a guitar tone until it's perfect, you can end up just going around in circles because you need to change it later and adjust it. But what I would say is this is mixing. Now, if you're producing a song, it's great. You can spend hours fine-tuning a synth sound or a vocal tone, and when recording, you want to spend a lot of time sorting these things out. But with mixing, you really have to move quickly. Otherwise, you lose sort of freshness on the song, and you start just not knowing what's right. So I'm probably going to take a little bit of a break, and then I'll come back to it and try to finish this off. Right, so let's take another listen to this, and then we'll fine-tune some specific tracks.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down. It feels like sanity until my lungs remind me.
I feel we could pull a little bit more brightness out of the vocals. I'm going to use a plugin called Slick EQ. This is a free one. Really like it on vocals, so I think around 2K I'm just going to add a little bit.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean.
Just a little.
Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down. It feels like sanity until my lungs remind me. But time is up, time is up.
Sounds so good.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black.
This pad here, just too much resonance. It's I love the sound of it. I just don't like how, yeah, it's this. Just too much of that, I think. It sounds amazing. It just needs a lot of work to get it mixed in. Again, you can really use any plugins, analog style EQs. You could run this into hardware and back in. I just think that's going to fit better. Cool, let's take a listen.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean. Dove deep until I knew no longer up from down. It feels like
there's a bit of low end there that I don't need as well. Yeah, I just don't need it. So I'm going to go into a high pass. Where are we? There we go. I'm going to make it a little bit steeper. More steep. Yeah, that's good. Now I can push the volume of this up.
feels like sanity until my lungs remind me but time is up, time is up.
Wonderful. Let's go into that sort of pre-chorus.
I wandered out again last night into a river. Oh.
Those drums have a weird hollowness to the kick. I'm going to take a better listen. Yeah, it's just on those little bits there. So I might do a little bit of side chaining between the bass and the drums. So I'm going to send side chain the bass to the drums to the bass. I'll add the Fruity Limiter plugin just because it makes the side chaining really simple. Let's see how we can do this because it's all one stem, so the snare is going to be quite loud. It'll be triggering this as well. Let's try this. Okay. Right, that should be doing it. A little bit of a quicker release. Cool, let's go to the final chorus.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black. You pull me back when I'm sinking down, down into the depths. You pull me. I know for sure I drown, but you pull me back.
Something I think I'll do in the chorus is take all of these instrument stems and do a little bit of a high pass. So I'm going to take a high pass filter, something like this in the chorus. But then I can push the overall volume up. And that's because I really want the bass and the kick to be providing the low end, especially in this final chorus. And then this, so this is sort of a wet, dry blend for this EQ. What I'm going to do is go to the instruments and I'm going to automate this on and off. So I'll keep it off until the final chorus and then I'll see whether that works. So basically this just means in the chorus, the final chorus, there will be a lot less low end in these instrument tracks. Let's take a listen.
You pull me back when I'm out of breath, swimming deep in black. You pull me back when I'm sinking down, down into the depths. You pull me back, and without you I know for sure I'd drown. But you pull me back, you pull me back.
I really like that. I think that helps. And I might do this for more of the tracks as well. There's this distorted guitar pad, and occasionally there's these really nice notes that ring out. And I might just take those little notes and increase them in volume a little bit.
Deep in black, you pull me back when I'm sinking down.
I'm going to send that even further over to the left.
Deep in black, you pull me back when I'm sinking down, down into the depths. You pull me back.
The next thing I'm going to quickly do is some global EQ, or that's what I call it at least. I don't know if that's the right term. Again, just a simple EQ, and it's common for people to mix through EQ and compression on their master channel, but I tend to avoid it because I like leaving things as open as possible for the mastering. But what this EQ is for is to help me imagine the song in a different way. I've given it a certain balance, but I want to hear what it sounds like if overall there's a lot less low end or there's more top end. So let's just take a listen.
I wandered out again last night into the ocean, dove deep until I knew no longer up from down. It feels like sanity until my lungs remind me, but time is up, time is up.
And to be honest, the only one there that sounded better, I think, is removing a little bit of this low mids, so I might want to go back and see what's contributing to that. Maybe the piano has a little bit too much low mids, but I like doing this because if I adjust it and I hear that it sounds better, then I know I should probably go and find that. But if I adjust it and everything I do makes it sound worse, then it's probably a good idea that you've got the mix balanced to where it should be. And remember that a mix doesn't have to have a perfect balance of low, mid, and high. It just has to be the right balance for that song. But that's everything sitting in a really good place for now. The next step is to send it away to the artist, David, and ask for his feedback. You shouldn't be worried about mix revisions or view them as failures or anything like that. This is the artist's song. You want them to be involved. I love hearing back and saying, okay, you know, you've pushed the piano a lot in this song, but really, I was really viewing it as a guitar-driven song. Could you change that? When someone trusts you to work with their music, their art, it's really good that they also feel that they can approach you to ask for these sorts of changes. As you've seen here, I put my own spin on those drums. I added the vocal effects the way I thought they should be, and overall I've given it a balance that I think works for this song, but it just might not be what they intended. And often you have to sort of step or put your own sort of ego aside and what you want for the song, and really just open up and be open to that criticism from the artist, because they're not really criticizing your ability, they're just trying to help you understand where they want the song to go. And often words can be difficult to describe what you want with audio by using words, so it can take a lot of communication to get there. But in time it makes both of you better. It helps the artist get better at expressing themselves. It helps you get better at mixing. So that's everything for today. Let me know if you have any comments or questions in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.